Everybody sits there and they go, I gotta be funny. How many people have sat down at the computer and gone, oh, I've got to come up with something funny? And often they feel overwhelmed with that big amorphous goo of, be funny! And we start trying to think of funny things. Rather than thinking of funny things, if you understand the science behind laughter and the structure behind comedy, then you can start approaching comedy from an entirely different level. It's really very mathematical in one way. It becomes more like a word problem rather than that big, just overwhelming idea of I gotta make somebody laugh. So we start with the laughter triggers. There are 9 psychological laughter triggers. These are triggers hardwired into the human DNA that make us laugh. These aren't going anywhere. They've been there for thousands of years. So surprise is number 1. The number 1 trigger for human laughter is surprise. If you surprise somebody with what you're about to say or what they expect you to say or do, odds are they're going to laugh. And I say odds are because the audience is always the final judge. You might say something and with high confidence go on and go, this is really funny. All of a sudden you say it, the audience flatlines. How many people have done that? And what do you do? What do you do when that happens? You just ignore that it happened? No, you got to acknowledge that it happened. Because another big laughter trigger is release. Release is so powerful. So if you make a mistake and then you reveal, wow, I just made that mistake, the audience is going to, because they feel the tension, they recognize that position, they feel that embarrassment, they've all had it in their lives. So then, when you admit that you just, wow. I've told comedians when they're starting out all the time, do your jokes, get up there. And then, if something goes wrong, use candor. Be very candid about what just happened. That will never fail you. So if you're up on stage and you tell your 3 jokes, your 3 humorous points that you thought were going to laugh, you go, wow, the last place I want to be right now is right here on this stage. Wave of laughter will occur because they recognize that they've seen that embarrassment, they've experienced it, and now you also surprise them because you acknowledge being vulnerable. In real life, vulnerability can get us beat up, right? But on stage, vulnerability is actually very powerful. If you're vulnerable, then everybody's like, wow, that person is vulnerable. That's so much, that has to take so much courage to be able to admit that. And then they're like, I want to be just like that. So it's like, I want to be able to admit that. I want to be able to be honest. It actually gives you power. It shows that you're confident. So if you're going to reveal a shortcoming or a misgiving or a flaw, the bigger your flaws, the bigger your comic character. So all the way along your speeches, you can actually use these techniques. We're going to focus on just a couple of them because we don't have all day. We only have 45 minutes, and plus I was late. So we have surprise, embarrassment, superiority, incongruity, recognition, release, ambivalence, configurational, and coincidence. I added coincidence. Coincidence is a form of surprise, but a lot of people get overwhelmed by surprise, and they think it needs to be highly unexpected, when sometimes surprise comes in the form of coincidence. And if we compare 2 things that normally don't go together, we show how they fit together, suddenly, they laugh at the idea that, oh, you're right, I never thought about it that way. How many people have done that? You ever notice we refer to distance in time? We refer to distance in time. We'll say, how far is the store? About 15 minutes. Doesn't work the other way around at all, does it? What time do you get off work? About 5 miles. So your laughter there came from 1, recognition, and 2, the coincidence that, oh, never thought about it that way before. Right. So that's a huge laughter trigger. Look at that nice clear laugh that came, a nice triggered laugh. It wasn't, well, whatever. Giggle a little bit. Now, you don't have to have every laugh. Have a nice, hard, triggered laugh. There's also subtlety in your laughter, too. And that's okay to have some subtle laughter to keep the rolling going as you're telling your speeches. So coincidence can be a very powerful laughter trigger. We, again, won't go into them in detail. The 6 essential elements necessary for any joke to be funny. And what I mean by joke is a laugh point within your story. It doesn't have to be a jokey joke or a 1- and 2-liner, but a laugh point within your story. So for these, it's target, emotion, antagonism, surprise, exaggeration, and realism.
All of those?
All of those. Every element should be in each and every piece of information. Target, we're making fun of something. Comedy is a veiled attack. We're either making fun of ourselves, the status quo, a situation, the valet situation that we all recognize. We're making fun of something. It doesn't have to be mean. People often, because we say target, they're assuming mean. It doesn't have to be mean. You can talk about something and then show surprise. And if I say to you this, if I say, I had an interesting career. I started out as a musician. I was like, I read an article when I was very young that said that women find men who play guitars more attractive. I played the trombone. So it wasn't mean, it wasn't an attack, it's making fun of myself. And then if I say, and then at 19 years old, I actually played professional soccer. I did, professional soccer. I did for a short period of time because I sucked. And see, again, I refer to my knee, I misdirect you, I say a self-deprecating line, and now you're laughing at the surprise that I would actually say that about myself, admit that. And number two, you thought I was going to talk about injuring myself. So we misdirected, you flipped some surprise, did some self-deprecation, and that's where the triggered laughter comes from. So you can take any sentence, you can write down any sentence and go, what's the audience assuming here? Are they assuming something? Do they see a picture? How can I change that picture? So if I say to you a simple sentence, I was trying to teach my daughter how to tie her shoes, which is weird because she's 17. It's about time you get these skills, So now you can take almost any sentence and flip it at the last second. I remember my girlfriend broke up and I went over to her house one night. I'm just yelling, "Stacy! Stacy!" I don't know why, because her name was Emily. But you can do that all day long by just stating things and then flipping it into that's called a reverse encounter. It works every time. But you don't want to do reverse, 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 reverse in your act. You want to sprinkle it with multiple structures. And there are 13 comedy structures, but we'll get those in a second. But target, we're picking on something. The next thing, emotion. Here's where a lot of people pull back and fail. There's zero emotion. Especially you get presenters that are presenting information and they have no feeling about it. The best piece of advice I got in comedy was from an acting teacher. I studied at some of the best acting schools. Here's the funny thing. I started at Juilliard. I started at Actors Studio in New York. I studied at Lee Strasberg Theater Institute here in California. And every time I go out on an audition, the casting director looks at my resume and goes, "Oh my God, you do stand-up comedy?" So it's almost like I didn't need those schools. But what was I talking about a second ago? Emotion, connecting to the emotion. But if you share your emotion, suddenly the audience is involved. So in this one acting class, my teacher said to me, "Jerry, so you're doing stand-up?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, next week I want you to come in and do 5 minutes. Yeah. So I did. I came in and did 5 minutes. So the class was laughing. I was getting laughs in my jokes. And she sat there with her arms folded. She's like, "Oh, look, Jerry thinks his jokes are so clever, he doesn't have to perform them." And instead of me shutting down, when you hear criticism, my dad always taught me, when you're in an acting class and somebody gives you a note, gives you criticism, don't think of it as a bad thing. Think of it as an opportunity to grow. We make our biggest leaps in our growth when we make our mistakes. So if you don't listen, you're not going to grow. So when she said that, and I knew she knew him and she knew me, so it's like if I shut down, she would relay that information to him. My dad was a very successful actor for 60 years, so I wanted to do well. I wanted to be like him. I always wanted approval. So I was like, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And she said, "I don't know how you feel about any of that stuff. Mechanically, structurally, it's funny. But boy, you would take it to the next level if we knew how you felt about each and every one of those lines." I mean, think about how quickly we respond to emotion on a dime. How many people ever watch Walking Dead? Walking Dead fans? Right? Remember Merle? Oh, we did not like Merle. Merle should die. That Merle is a bad man. The moment he sacrificed himself for the group, we're looking, "Oh, Merle." Yeah. Instantly, it changed our emotion. So this is how quickly you can change your emotion in the moment on stage. So, and on top of that, if you take anything away from this little workshop, take this. The audience is in whatever state the performer is in, always. So if you're nervous and you're trying to hide it, they will be too. So what will happen as a result? They'll hide their laughter. Because they're not going to be open and honest with you. And if you're happy, they'll be happy. So if your material is failing, your jokes are failing, and yet you keep your sense of humor about the material failing, the audience is going to go, I like that guy. I really like that guy. I'd hang out with that guy. Because, the jokes didn't fly tonight, but boy, he was certainly a nice guy. He sure had fun with that. He had fun. Face planted in his bending. He really did. So emotion, let us know how you feel about your material. Let us know how you feel. And it's got to be sincerity. It can't be fake. It's got to be genuine emotion. You can't go in with this, just going to change my voice to show how I care. Because everybody's going to see through that. And here's one dynamic of audiences. It's in theater science that you must understand. We as audiences love to be fooled. We hate to be made fools of. And you know the difference, And if in comedy or in theater, if somebody's doing bad acting or not being sincere with you, it's like we just saw the trap tour at a magician's act. We're like, I don't buy it anymore. You can't fool me. And they'll fold their arms on you. But if you're honest and you really take a moment to get in touch with your emotions, you can change the way an audience feels. Think about the power of that. I mean, actually, if you take a moment and let an emotion happen, you can change the way the audience feels. And people say, how can I take my speech or my comedy or my performances to the next level?